Okay. So we are live, Alicia. So we're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. But Instagram always takes me like 3 seconds or 4 seconds after to go live. Okay, so we're
Okay.
live on all
So we
platforms.
are live, Alicia. So we're live on LinkedIn.
Okay. Perfect. So I just want to welcome everyone to the month of February where we will be reviewing or reflecting on this book 10x is easier than 2x. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Esememe. This is our global virtual book club where we review one book every month, and I have two co-hosts in this month. The second is yet to join us. He's running behind schedule. Once he comes in, I'll introduce him. But I have Alicia Powell, who is an amazing friend of mine. She lives in the UAE. She lives in Dubai, just like I do. She's had a really long day, but she's really committed to the project. Alicia, do you mind introducing yourself to everybody?
Hello, my name is Alicia M. Powell. I am from the United States, but like Dr. Gloria said, I live in Dubai. I've been here for 2 years. I am a lawyer and the founder of the Amalgam Group, a platform and advisory firm connecting the Gulf region with Africa and the diaspora, specifically through business, sport, culture, and capital, as well as helping those enter into the UAE market. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Gloria.
Excellent. And so last month we did start with why. So that was January. I felt that that was a good way to start the year by doing start with why. So we have our clarity really crystal clear. And then this month, just to kind of build off of where we started from, we're doing the 10x so that whatever clarity, whatever goals you have, then we would have the tools to move on to the next stage. So if you have clear goals, then you need this skill to 10x your goals or to actualize your goals. And online, I see Gracie, I see Dr. Billis, I see Asking, I see all of you on Instagram. I just want to welcome you all. You can put a note on where you're joining us from, and once we start to discuss and reflect, it's really short, but once we start to reflect, I would really appreciate it if you add your own reflections so we can review them and talk about them. And Kelechi, I see you as well. Um, so let me go. I sent an email like a few seconds ago with the book guide. Oh, so Grace is joining from New Jersey. Dr. Billings is joining from Canada. Oh, amazing. So we're
Hello.
covering, yeah, we are covering a really wide spectrum from the Middle East to North America. Okay. So let me just let me talk about why I already talked about why I chose this book. And just to before I talk about that a little bit more, just as a disclaimer, I've read the book before. So it's not one of those books that I'm like, oh, I don't know what it entails. I know what it entails. I first read this book in November 2024, and I'm not just using words loosely. It changed my life. It changed how I operate because I read the book when I was transitioning from being a full-time doctor to when I was, I started branching out more into my consulting business. I started doing more of negotiation. So this book kind of gave me the courage to do what it is I really wanted to do. So it's a book that I would recommend. I would recommend. It changed my thought process. There's some books you read, they kind of rewire how you think. This is one of those books. It comes highly recommended. Okay, so I'll just go over. Let me see. I'll go over
Just
the
from,
reflections.
I'll say even just from the beginning, I hadn't read it before, but now
Mhm.
looking into it now, it's such a good way to think, and I think it really I can imagine that it definitely rewired things for you and changed.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's so important the perspectives that are in the book.
Yes. it was just like how so for those who haven't read the introduction, it talked about the introduction. He built it off Michelangelo, how he started. He was 17 when he started, and he built this. He just started creating art. He started from making like the Hercules. Started from, they paid him like 100 whatever, however way they call the money they paid over at that time, till he got to like 200, 400. His value just increased exponentially, just because of how he thought, how he applied the 10x to what he did. And the concept of 10x is it's not like you're working 10 times more, but you're taking out everything that's not taking you to 10x. So it's more simple but very, very focused. And I thought it was interesting for those of us who were here last month when we read Start With Why. They use Apple as an example. And in this book, in this introductory chapter, they also talked about Steve Jobs, how Steve Jobs was just like, the ultra 10x person. When he created the iPod, he made sure what was not needed was not included in it. So I'm like, Apple is a really good prototype for us to study if we want to 10x our lives. Okay.
And I think
So
that goes for business, but then also how he lived his life, because the book also talks about like beyond business, right? Like how you can do
correct,
this for your life. And Steve
correct.
Jobs is a good example of that, because there are certain things that he did that he cut out, so to make sure that his life was 10x. So even like the uniform, making sure that he wore like the same thing all the time, because it's
Good.
like, all right, I can't afford to be thinking about what I'm wearing. So it's just a good, not just for Apple, but for Steve Jobs in general.
But you know what, Alicia? I was trying to 10x my own outfit for my podcast, but that really didn't. I think I'm still I'm still struggling. So Alicia and I, so we met. The day we met, and we were talking about. I was thinking it might just be easier for me to 10x. I didn't know that's what I was trying to do, but I was trying to 10x my outfits for my podcast. I'm thinking maybe I'll just get like a T-shirt that I can just wear all the time. There was another girl who was with us. She was like, "No, you can't get away with that, Gloria." So, but they kind of gave me a tip on how to 10x. They said just wear like a white shirt and then I can put a jacket on it. Then the white shirt is something I don't ever have to think about. So I'm rebranding a little bit. So I'm doing like, but I'm not doing the white shirt today. But for my podcast, for when I go to speak, they said since I'm a doctor, I can just hold on to my white shirt. So that's still kind of like maybe that's 5x. That's not 10x yet, Alicia. What do you think?
It's like 3.5, right? We're trying to get it down. We're
You're
trying to get it
such,
down.
you're such a hard grader.
But the idea, I mean, I didn't know, because at the time I hadn't read the book, so I didn't know that's what you were trying to do. But the idea is like, if we can try to streamline our lives as much as possible, or like cut out things that we have to think about, then we're
Yeah,
able to really 10x our goals.
correct.
And so that's just a really good example of something, of just saying, okay, like I'm not going to have to think about this every single time. It's just streamlined.
Yes. And so the things to pay attention to, it's in the if it's in the reader's guide. It's just pay attention to the difference between incremental improvement and transformational growth. So 2x is incremental, like, oh, you're moving from one level to another, you're moving from deputy manager to manager. That's kind of like the 2x. But 10x is that you come in as an employee, boom, you're the CEO. I don't know how you're gonna do it, but that's 10x. So maybe that's 100x though, but that's like the exponential growth we're talking about. Recently I was on a podcast. I just had a podcast which I released yesterday. It was with a guy from, his name is Abdul Hadi. He's Emirati. And I was talking to him about how you grow in an organization. I was telling him that personally, I believe that if you want to grow exponentially in an institution, you don't want to be in a position for too long. Personally, 2 to 5 years should be the max anyone should stay in a position if you want to grow. But if you want to have deep roots, you want to be like the expert, you want to know the lay of the land, then you can be there indefinitely. Because if you work for like, if your career spans like 30 years and you spend 10, 15 years in a certain position, maybe like an entry level position or just like 2x where you get in from, there's only how far you can grow because you're not moving fast. But to each their own. That's just my take. He thought otherwise. He felt you stay in a position until you have nothing to give and the position has nothing to give back to you, which I think was also brilliant.
I can see it working both ways. And, I mean, my corporate journey has been like in and out because I've also like mixed in entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
But I have seen it where it's like you can be a part of an organization and you can go from entry level to the CEO, right? Like you've seen those success stories where it's like if you look at it to say like, even though I'm in the same job, I'm going to try to 10x each position and not move up incrementally.
Yeah.
But then there's also the argument that in order to be able to really 10x, you need to go to a new organization because that organization has already like pigeonholed you and you can only go so far. So it really is like um, on a case by case basis.
Yes. Yes. It's case by case, and then also how far, what your goals are, because not everybody wants to be the CEO. Not everybody wants that.
Yeah.
So it depends on what your goal is. So BC, I see you. I see you. So BC just joined. If you have any reflections, if you have any thoughts, just put it in the comments, and then I would read it, or Alicia would read it, and then we
Hi,
can
BC.
reflect on your ideas. Okay. And so something else is why aiming for 2x often creates more complexity. Yes. So when you aim for 2x, it means you're doing more. So you're adding more to your plate because you want to move on to the next level. But when you're aiming for 10x, you're taking out stuff that's not helping you. That was a conversation I had with somebody today. That person knows herself or himself. So I was talking about how there's some things I would not do, not because I don't want to do it, but doing it is not taking me towards where I want to go. So I would rather take out stuff from my plate than add more. If I add, it means I'm adding like a 10x activity, and then I'm taking, because our 10x changes from day to day. My 10x like a year ago is not my 10x now. There are some things I did a year ago that was really great for me to do, but I've evolved to a stage that some of the things from a year ago I no longer have to do them, and every day we keep evolving. So I was telling the person that I cannot do because it's not moving me in the direction I want to go. Rather, it would slow me down from creative work. So I'm not going to do that. What are your thoughts on that, Alicia?
No, I totally agree with that premise. And from the book, it makes sense, like to see it written out, because I do understand that when we're thinking smaller, and I kind of went through that recently, where it was like looking to do smaller things, more mass market, right, to get like more. But I realized that the amount of time and effort that it would take to get smaller, like smaller clients or like smaller price points, then you could, if you really want to 10x, which again I didn't have the words for it because I hadn't read it at the time, but if you really want to 10x, then you have to take out those smaller pieces. So sometimes like you can look at that from like networking, right? Like you can go to, especially here in Dubai, but even in the States or the UK, wherever, you
Yeah.
can go to, every day, 3 times a day, you can be at a different networking event. But if you know what your 10x goal is, then
Mhm.
you would cut out all of those smaller ones and like save up for that conference that you need to be at, where like the heavy hitters in your industry are, right? So I think it becomes more complex because your time is now, the idea of 2x is more complex because your time is scattered and you're going in all these different directions, as opposed to just saying, nope, I'm cutting out anything that
Yeah.
isn't part of this big 10x goal.
Yeah. So 10x is kind of like laser focus, where it's like, this is
Yeah.
it. Once it's not it,
Blinders on.
yes, yes. Okay. And then something else to pay attention to that we have in our guide is that the idea that bigger goals can simplify decisions rather than complicate them. That is so true. It is so true, because if you have like a really big goal, or a goal that's big is relative, right? So for me, my goals, I try to set goals that are way bigger than myself. And so once I have those goals set, then it's so easy for me to say, no, this doesn't fit into this big plan, and I take it out. I'm still in the process of fine tuning my ability to take out anything that's not 10x. And something that stops me sometimes, and I was just reading this book and it kind of refreshed my memory, is the scarcity mindset. Once, normally I don't think like that, but because we're human and are not, resources are limited. So sometimes I start to get into that scarcity mindset and I try to catch myself really fast whenever I see myself making decisions because of scarcity or fear, So when you have bigger goals, it just makes it easier for you to make decisions.
Yeah, and resources are not finite; they're infinite, right?
Correct.
But because we're human, we only see a finite amount of resources. So then it's harder to say, like, it's harder to conceptualize that they are infinite. But then when you do have that 10x mindset, you're like, no, like there is like no, there are a infinite number of resources. Um, there isn't scarcity, so it kind of helps you get out of that human mindset of like I know like I'm only seeing limited resources, and it puts you in the mindset of saying no, let me think more abundantly, let me think bigger, because I have this big audacious goal, and in order for it to come to pass, I need the resources. So we're going to not believe in scarcity and have to call in these resources to make this goal happen.
Yes. Okay, so we have three reflection points for in the book, in the guide. So the first is, what drew you to this book club at this point in your life? So mine, I think I say mine all the time. I want to read more intentionally. 2026, I want to, at the end of 2026, I want to look back and see that I grew in leaps and bounds. And the fastest way to grow is, one of the fastest ways to grow is through interactions, the people you interact with. And what books, what reading books, what this does for me is that it helps me interact with people who I would normally not have access to, and I interact with them at a very deep level where I'm going into their brains, seeing their thought process, learning all the things that they know, which they took out time, because every sentence in the book was well thought out. They put so much energy into that book. So I go in and I'm just like sucking everything in. That's my reason for being in this book club, because I really, really want to read. And then being the founder of the book club, is that as I'm doing it, I want to carry people along with me, so we all keep ourselves accountable. Because my library, I had so many books, because I would see these books with great topics. I'm just like, yes, I'll buy this book. I buy all these books, and I wasn't reading as much as I would love to. So 2026 was the year that I wanted to be more deliberate in my growth. I'm not leaving my growth to chance or hope. I'm very active, so that when I look back in a year, I would be really proud of where of my journey in 2026. So that's why I got into the book club. And so if you are online, do you mind dropping a line while Alicia tells us her reason? Do you mind dropping a line on what drew you to the book club at this point in your life?
Yeah, you said such a key word, being deliberate. And for me, it was about being deliberate and intentional. It was beautiful how you phrased it. Like, you don't want it to leave your growth to chance, right? And I think sometimes, like, we get so busy in life or business or work and family and all the other things that draw our attention away. And if you want to focus on like I used to be very into like self-development and personal development books, and then life just it happens and you get away from it. So by being a part of this book club and being here, right, like I have to read it, right, to be able to talk about it. But
Yes.
I'm really happy because, especially for this book in particular, because it really is changing my mindset on a lot of things. And yeah, no, so it's really great to be a part of something, to be intentional and deliberate about making sure that you're growing and that you're growing in all aspects of life and business.
Yes. And so the other reflection prompt is, where are you currently trying to do more instead of choosing better? And you can, like those of us who are online, I would really appreciate you adding to the conversation so we have a richer and more robust conversation. So I don't know, where am I trying to do more? I think initially when I just moved to Dubai, um, it was the phase I was in. I was doing a lot. Like I was like trying to network, meet with people, understand the lay of the land. I was running around the city. And I'm grateful I did that, because before you need to, if you're gonna 10x something, you need to start from somewhere. So now I don't, I'm more intentional. I'm more, even where I, what I invest in, where my money goes, where my time, not just that, even where my thought process goes. It's more deliberate. I see you, David. Thank you for joining. It's more deliberate. I'm 10xing now, but before, I think maybe there was like a lot of 2x activities in my life when I just moved to Dubai.
Yeah, and it's very easy to get into that, especially here in Dubai, because there are so many things pulling at your attention. Even if it seems good, even if they're like networking or meetings or other things, and you're trying to gain your footing, but it is so incremental if you do it that way. But if you say, even if you go to the same number of networking events, but you have this 10x goal in mind, and you say, I don't need to talk to every single person, or I can, but I know exactly what I'm looking for, right? Or like I know exactly what the end goal is and what would make this beneficial and what would make this useful, as opposed to going just to meet, I don't know, chit chat, right? Like chit chatting
Yeah,
is great. You never know where it's going to lead, but if you have the goal in mind, and that's what you're talking about, like when you talk to people, like you say that this is what it is. Um, I know people who are looking for a significant other, so like they'll say to people, like if they go out, I'm looking for this, like a significant, I'm looking for a husband, or I'm looking for a wife. Then they know, like even if it's the same number, even if they're not their goal is still, because the 10x goal is to get married, they're very deliberate and very streamlined about what they're doing. So I think it's yeah, important to look at it that way, even if you don't end up taking stuff out, that you cut out the noise when you are
yeah.
in those places.
You know what? I like that about looking for a significant other. So if you're clear on what you are looking for in a significant other, then it also helps you cut out the noise really quick. Like you meet people, you might be very attracted to them. You might like how you might like something about them, but you're like, because you're 10x at that point, is, oh, I want to meet someone who I'll spend the rest of my life with. Then it helps you cut out. You're like, no, I can't spend 2 months with this person. So let's just let it go. you know. So let me pull up the last reflection points that we have here. It says, "What would you feel uncomfortable but exci- What would feel uncomfortable but exciting to 10x in your life right now?" Whoosh, that's a good one. What are your thoughts, Alicia?
Wow. So when I was thinking about this earlier, I think for me it would be to, and I did it a little bit towards the end of last year, but to do it more intentionally and all the time. Send out messages, or send out proposals, or send out emails, or send out asks and requests to people that are so out of your realm, right? Like, so people that are like, I'll give you an example. I had an event, and I had this list, and like the list of the people that I wanted, when I did tell someone, I was like, listen, I know that these are like pie in the sky names, that these are names that like I don't have access to, that are like top people. But I have it in my mind that this is what I want. I guess I was 10xing even back then, before I knew what to call it. I'm like, so I at least have to have it in my mind that this is who I want. And if I don't
Yeah,
get them, okay, but I'm going to do everything in my power to try to do outreach towards them, right? And just as an example, I had a conversation with someone who I had no idea was connected to some of these people, and they were able to send out letters, like request letters to them. They declined, or like they weren't available. But the idea is, I had this list that seemed so far fetched of
yeah,
people that I wanted, but because I was deliberate in saying, okay, this is what it was, I could have been embarrassed and like not tell her, when the person asked, like, well, who's on the list, I could have been embarrassed, because I don't know these
yeah,
people, and these are like top names in the industry. But I didn't. I was like, you know what, I don't have connections. When I asked they were like, well, do you have connections to them? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, I have connections to this person. I have connections to this person and this person. So I think that's what I'll be doing all of 2026, having these big names, these big partnerships, these big goals, these big proposals, these big clients that I want, and going going after them.
I think that's great because if you look at this book, it's written by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. So Dan Sullivan, he technically did not write the book. Ben Hardy wrote the book, but because Dan Sullivan was a bigger name, he aligned himself. He 10x himself by aligning himself with someone who had a bigger name who could carry him. So technically, that's what you're doing, trying to find people who can carry you to where you want to get to, people who have more influence, and nothing wrong with that. It's just I think what you're doing is the right thing. And
Yeah, I
then
mean, as long as there's alignment, right? Like
of
if
course
it's
it has
something
to be
where,
alignment.
yeah,
Yeah,
as long as there's alignment. And I think some of us, we don't think of it that way. Like if we have a 2x mentality, then it's like, no, we just have to like chip away, chip away, chip away, and it could
yeah,
take you forever to do that, as opposed to, like you saying, getting someone with bigger influence that is aligned, and then letting
yeah,
them carry you to the next level. So I think that is a very good example of how to 10x.
yeah. So for me, my 10x is because I help Americans invest in real estate in Dubai. So I've been doing my outreach like one to one, just testing the market, seeing what it's like. But I want to 10x that this year. So I want to have webinars where I'm teaching people about Dubai, the real estate market in Dubai. So I want to do that. That's my way of reaching, rather than reach one person. It's do a webinar where I can reach so much more people, and it's still the same me, same energy, but I'm covering a wider range. So that's my 10x. And also teach people more about how to negotiate. So have webinars where I do trainings, and then have like a community where I can actually pour out my heart and pour out all of my knowledge and my resources into those people so they can be better negotiators. So that's how I want to 10x some of the things that I do. And I think this book club also is me 10x in myself. So I'm not just reading, I'm carrying people along with me. So we are all reading together. And if the people who in my world are all readers, then whatever value they get from the books, they are still what, because these are my people, right? So these are people who pour into me. So they have more to pour into me, just the way I can. The more I have, I pour into them, then the more that they have, they pour into me. So these are ways that I am obviously 10x in myself this year. And if anyone has any ideas, any thoughts, put it in the comments. I would love to know how you are 10x in yourself. Any thoughts here? What do you think about my 10x, Alicia?
I think that's so good, because everything that you're doing, whether it be the podcast or whether it be the book club here, you are thinking it from the perspective of, I want to reach as many people as possible. And I mean, I think that's a great example of 10xing, is saying like, this one to one is great, but how can I get the message out there, whether it be for the real estate, whether it be for the negotiation, but in general, the gift that you have on the inside of you, how can you get it out? And that's something that has been coming up. And that's the power of social media. I'm a little bit, like social media, I'm still looking to get into social media more, because I do see that that is a 10x. That's a great way to 10x, because you have your limited platform of one-on-one of the people that you know,
Right.
but social media, you've seen people just, you're able to reach so many more. So if your goal is certain things, you can use social media for that. So kudos for you and your 10x and how you're going to go about it, and keep it up.
Thanks, and you too. And Gracie just wrote in the comments that showing up at the book club is a 10x for her. And Gracie, I've seen you show up consistently since so I did a trial run in December just to see if it was something I was going to do. It was my goal for 2026. Did a trial in December. Gracie has been there from day one, and she's still here today. So yes, kudos to you. That's 10x. And the more we read, the more we learn, the better we become. So yes, I agree. And who knows, right, Gracie? Maybe you and I can do like we could host together very soon. If you want to be my co-host, we could work towards that. So that way we can take this from just being a member of the book club. We'll take our 10x to we 10x it a little bit more. If that's what if you're open to that, we can talk about that. Alicia, do you have anyone in the online? If you have any comments, please let me know before we round up. Alicia, do you have any comments before we round up?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say the energy that it takes to 10x is less really than the energy that it takes to 2x. And I've been there before, trying to scramble and hustle and trying to do all of these little things. And it's like, you know, there's it's Donald Trump, but it was from years ago. He has this he has this quote, and it's like, if you're going to be thinking anyway, you might as well think big. And that
Right.
is something that has always like stuck with me, because it's like the energy, you're putting energy towards something anyway, you might
Yeah.
as well put energy towards that big thing.
Hmm.
And because even if it doesn't happen, it's going to still be more than if you were putting energy down to something smaller, right? So like
Right.
the shoot for the stars, because if shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you reach the
So,
stars, right? Like that whole concept.
Alicia, there's something about the 10x concept. So what 10x does is it's beyond the results of what you attain. It's who you become in the process. So I'll use myself as an example. I've done about 10 weeks of coming on like online consecutively for 10 weeks straight. I remember my very first live broadcast. I was nervous because it was something I hadn't done before. I didn't really know how to work the internet, how to work all the buttons. I called someone to help me. I was just like, okay, how's my thought process? But now it's just like I've done it 10 times, right? 10, 12 times. So it's just like boom, boom, I know what I'm doing. So it's who you become
Mm.
in the process. Because I would hope I had like 100,000 people join this book club, but that's not happening at this point in time. However, I'm becoming someone who shows up consistently. I'm becoming someone who can share my thoughts, who can reflect better than I did the first time. So it's who we become in the process as well as what we attain.
It's very true, because
Yeah,
it's really about becoming, because
it
you're
is.
also, like you said, rewiring. You're literally rewiring who you are, how you show up, and how you dream, and how you think.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like we said earlier, it goes to so many different areas. It's not just work, it's not just business, it's
Mhm.
personal, it's professional, it's relationship wise. You are becoming a different person when you decide to 10x as opposed to 2x.
Yes. So yeah, Jeff got he got tied up somewhere. He could not join us, but I am pretty confident he is gonna be with us next Thursday. So for those who are listening, yeah, Jeff, he's this amazing young man who I met at my improv class. He just did a triathlon. I think he just 10x himself, and I'll let him talk about that when he's here next Thursday. But we will be going, so the coming week we will be reading chapters 1 and 2, and that's kind of like the trap of 2x thinking. So that would go we're going to go deeper into the 2x thought process, so we actually know we can really identify the activities that are 2x, so we can take those out of our lives. But yeah, I'm getting someone to help me a little bit more with the community, just so we can just to keep everybody more engaged. I don't think I'm doing a good job at this point because I don't think I reached out to anybody this last week, because that's the goal. The goal is not just for me to read, but to carry people along with me. I went for a conference. I was really busy, but I'm getting someone to help me moderate the group, reach out to people who are not commenting in the group. So I want you all to be involved. Whatever thoughts you put it there so we all can learn, and encourage each other so we can read and grow together. And even if you're not going as fast as you want to, it's still okay. It's still okay. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to give it your very best.
And that's for everything in life, right?
That's
We don't have
for
to be
yes,
perfect, but we
yes,
just have to give it our best. So that's a great way to end.
yes. And Danny just joined Daniela just joined from Vietnam. Danny, I see you. She just joined from Vietnam.
Hello.
Well, we are about to call it a night. So we'll be back here next Thursday, 8 p.m. Dubai time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Come with your thoughts, come with your ideas. Let's really dive into these 10x, 2x ideas so we really become a better version of ourselves at the end of this month.
I love it. I hope everyone
Alicia?
has a 10x week.
Yes. Yes, I hope so too. I hope so too. I hope to have a 10 next week. And Alicia, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for being here. I know it's not convenient for you. I know you are not in your comfort zone, you're not at home. You made sure you showed up for this. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all that you do to help um, spread light to everyone on using your platform. So, keep up the amazing work.
Thank you. We'll be back next Thursday.
Have a great night.
Bye. Gracie, good night. Danny, good night. Everybody online, good night. I'm like the little child. Say bye, everybody.
I can't see everyone, so bye.
Bye.